Prabhupada. How do you go? I don't know that tune. Vansha Kopa Tutyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaidisha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we've been reading from Lilamrita and as our timeline, and we've been reading from Mukunda Maharaj's, Guru Das's, Jamuna's, and now we're on Shama Sundar's books, and we're staying in the same time frame. So we're getting all their perspectives. And it's really interesting because you can see they're all in there at this, but they all have a little bit of a different way of experiencing it. Like with Jamuna, she very much was thinking of Prabhupada had created, and I remember it. And when, because I came in 69, but this in 68, Srila Prabhupada had created a world Sankirtan party. And the idea was they were going to travel all over the world and do Harinam, a very special world Sankirtan party. So she was very much focused on that. And so it was just really interesting to see through the lens that they're perceiving um, the experience from. And so we're jumping right in where we left off. At the end of October, Brahmananda sent us a few rush copies from Swami's Bhagavad Gita as it is, newly printed by Macmillan Publishing. Earlier in the episode, Srila Prabhupada had loaned them $1,655 so that they would have a little startup money, but loaned it. And it took 6 weeks. The wire took 6 weeks to get to them in London. And they were going frequently to see if it had arrived. By the time it arrived, Prabhupada said, send it back. We need it to print the Bhagavad Gita. So it was like, uh, disconcerting. They received it and immediately wired it back. And now in their hands, they have the Bhagavad Gita. So this is a very exciting moment. At last, we had the words of Krishna himself in our hands. We devoured the Gita, reading it alone. We're in class together, drinking in his words. 9:1, Sri Krishna says, Dear Arjuna, since you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you the most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. 9:2, this knowledge is the king of education, most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. This everlasting, I might have messed up on this because I typed it, so I'm not sure. I think this is a different word. Amnesty is joyfully performed. Let's see. I think I wrecked that one. This is where the changes don't work. There, I typed this, so there's human error here. Please forgive me. But the secret knowledge, we, in these early days, we even had mimeographed papers that would come to us, and it was not in print yet. And as Prabhupada was translating, we would get these advanced bits. And this was like secret knowledge. We felt like it was before it was even published, hot off the press. And we had this sense of secret knowledge, like that we were some of the first people getting to hear what Prabhupada's writing. So this secret knowledge aspect of it is really ecstatic, I gotta say, really ecstatic. Chapter 10, Opulence of the Absolute, became one of our favorite chapters. Krishna describes his own wonders and glories. One morning, the six of us ended our morning class with the verse 41. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring but from a spark of my splendor. Yamuna started it with a low chuckling, then pressed. She shook her head. No, let's not go there. But she couldn't suppress her chuckles and soon broke out into a throaty laugh. Come on, Jamuna, let's have it. What's so funny? She looked at me and said, Do you remember those sock hops at Leslie Junior High and that song by the Four Aces? Love is and Mukunda gathered his breath and threw back his head and crooned in a high voice, Love is a many splendored thing. And on cue, the rest of us joined in the chorus. It was a hot song that, it was like probably in the top 10 or something like that. So sock hops, this is a sign of the times. We had them in school. The school would have these dances, and they were something like square dancing, and then it went on to the twist, but there was so much about dancing, formal dancing. We learned cotillion, we learned all these kinds of dances, but it was supervised in schools. So you can see this dancing, chanting and dancing could be really easily transplanted into our society because this is a big thing, singing and dancing. So it's the April rose that only grows in the early spring. Love is nature's way of giving a reason to be living, the golden crown that makes a man a king. And we're on the floor now, rolling with laughter, and I couldn't get that song out of my head the rest of the day. That's the thing about these, these songs, they play over and over in your head. And the funniest thing in those days, there was like the top 10, and you really paid attention to which one was in the top like three. And My Sweet Lord was at the top of the charts, I think, longer than any single song. And it had the chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna in it. So it's just really special to have um, My Sweet Lord as number one, top of the charts. And we were the baby boomers, so it was a huge segment of the population. In the history of humankind, there's, um, this is all the fellows who came back from war and they finally got home and they all of a sudden there was this huge bunch of babies. During the war, there was not much because all the men were off to war. And then in those days, we had what they call the draft. Draft means if you're a certain age and you're not going to college, they just draft you into the military. And that was a real rough time for young men, young men. So it was, especially if you're not a kshatriya, if your nature isn't a warrior, if it is not your dharma, it created a lot of post-traumatic stress syndrome in the society. And we young people that came from that group of men that came back from war had an abhorrence to war, abhorrence because our fathers had gone away, come back, created a lot of babies. So it set up an environment of revolution. But Prabhupada came and he gave us a different type of revolution. It was revolution of the soul. We didn't have to go out and protest this and that. We could go out in the street and chant Hare Krishna and dance, So this was a revolution of the spirit. And so we were right ready because we did not want. And there was one song that was in the top 10. It was War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. That was the song. So people were chanting that too. So, but Prabhupada, he's got that hot off the press Bhagavad Gita, fight for the sake of fighting. But what is worth living for and what is worth dying for? This is what Prabhupada gave us. Not just this arbitrary, you get drafted, you have no clue why it's an important thing to go off and get killed. You have no clue. But Prabhupada gave us something to live and die for. So let's see, we're on the floor now, rolling with laughter, and I couldn't get that song out of my head for the rest of the day. I drove around London, going here and there, thinking about the things that Swami had told us, like the letter to me dated November 24th. To the sincere devotee, this ocean of Maya is easily crossed by the cool breeze of Krishna's grace. So, this is our business to submit to Krishna's desire to have us back with him in the eternal sky. And when we are determined in this way, we become transcendental to the so called hardships, place, and circumstance. Sacrifice your life for Krishna and escape the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. Yay, yay. You can't really say that our life here in London was a sacrifice. Sure, it is a bit lean, but we're having a ball. They're six best friends and they're out to set the world on fire with Krishna consciousness. It's lovely. So Dick and his girlfriend Pamela visited us at Betterton Street with their friend Tim and the new boy Colin Jury. Dick and Pamela get jobs cleaning flats and kicking in a couple of pounds a week. Another fellow named Jimmy Duty starts hanging out and asking questions about Krishna. Jimmy has invented a light show device, a little projector that throws patterns on the wall using slides of colored oils compressed between glass. He asks if he could call his company Krishna Lights. We said, sure, why not? These large ads for Krishna lights start appearing in almost every issue of IT with pictures of Krishna or Panchatattva. These new kids have heavy, limey accents and idioms, and we have a hard time understanding them at first, like kit. Kit means clothes, and a bit of kip is a nap. One boy can't pronounce my name and calls me Sammy Shoe instead of Shama Sundar Sammy Shoe. You have to understand this is an international society, and English aren't, they're different on the other side of the pond. You know, you've got American English, you've got English. It's very, very different. Even in the United States, you have the Southern drawl. It's very different. You have the New York, the East Coast accent, very, very different. We attend occasional meetings at the Hindu Center, and sometimes we go to the Hindu homes for dinners. We know something about Indian culture from the Swami, like calmer manners and show of respect. Now we are learning firsthand how to socialize and mix freely with Indian people. Since African politics, like Idi Amin's crackdown in Uganda, had forced many of these families to flee to England, most of the immigrant men were working menial civil jobs, civil service jobs, or running small rental businesses. But in true Indian style, they were all frugal and totally family oriented. They would save their incomes, put their payments on small suburban homes or flats, bring their relatives over, get them jobs, and soon take over the whole neighborhood. Southall was one such area. We sincerely liked many of these Indian people, but most of them had fixed ideas about their Hindu religion and considered Krishna just one of the many gods. They were all more interested in feeding us lavish meals in return for our blessings and showing us off to their children to see our religion is so good that even these white Europeans are taking it up. Malati said Saraswati was crying a lot at one point, and one of the Indian ladies told me she was hungry, and I told her, no, she's always nursing. But the Indian lady, who had far more experience than I did, showed me how to crush grains and mix them with milk and use a little bottle, and that took care of that. She was hungry. Issue number 45 of IT came out on November 29th, 1968, with a four-colored double-page feature put together by Guru Das. One part, Haranananda Bhagavad Gita Bhakta Pralad, was a series of 20 cartoon panels that had been emailed to us by Sundar and Govindadasi. Must have been maybe Praladananda Bhagavad Pralad. Oh, my typing. Gaurasundar and Govindadasi illustrating the story of Prahlad Maharaj. Gurudas wrote the text for each panel and used the title with perfect calligraphy. Jamuna used the title with perfect calligraphy. Part two would appear in the later issue. 50,000 IT readers saw this ancient story from Srimad Bhagavatam. This hasn't even been published yet. This book that they had done, a Prahlad Maharaj book, Govindadasi's got it, hasn't, it just came out in the IT but never got printed. They're thinking about printing it. This event takes place long before the dawn of our modern recorded history. Each of the four Vedas, a particular method for spiritual advancement, is foremost. The age in which this incident takes place is an age in which the average lifespan is 1,000 years. Austerities and penances constitute the path of realizing the self and freeing the self from material bondage. The story opens up on one of the Vaikuntha spiritual planets as we see. 20 panels later, in the final panel, Prahlad is sitting in the courtyard, his mother in the background, pleading with his evil father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad is given poisonous food. His mother protests in vain. But Lord Krishna nullifies the effect, and once again, Prahlad is saved from his father's devices. And it's to be continued in the newspaper. This is, tried to find it. Because IT does, I found a lot of things in their archives. I was trying to find that one. The same IT issue advertises an upcoming rock concert at the Roundhouse Chalk Farm for Saturday, December 14th at 10:30 p.m. till dawn, starring Principal Edwards Magic Theater. Second billing is Sitar Master Pandit Rika and the Radha Krishna Temple leading the Vedic mantra chanting. Now they have a name. This was our second big gig at the Roundhouse and the first show with our name Radha Krishna Temple. We had learned a lot about show business in a couple of months. As the opening act, our plan was to gather the audience around a ceremonial bonfire in the center of the huge hall and have kirtan, showbiz. Before the show, we had a metal sheet surrounded by bricks. We laid out 3 foot high mound of firewood on the dance floor and soaked it with kerosene. Oh no, Krishna, this sounds like it is. I mean, we had a fire sacrifice. When I first put a pit, the Havan Kun under the banyan tree in the backyard in Hawaii, I put it a little too close to the tree. Unfortunately, I didn't fix it yet. I moved it up a little bit the second time around. So, because it does get pretty big, and this is not, we don't need kerosene at all. Oh no, Krishna. We use Tulsi wood, but this kerosene, just without kerosene, you can have a huge fire. We sat in the circle around the stack of wood, hundreds of people seated on us on the floor, and started to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We threw a match and whoosh, the flames shot high. The crowd stood quickly, then went wild, chanting and dancing with the band and pressing closer to see the flames. Closer they came, forcing us almost into the fire. Our clothes started to smoke. I'm looking at Gurdas. Now what do we do? Just then, a guy rolls over with a bucket of water and starts dousing the flames just in time, saving us from certain immolation. Boy, this is what we get for making it up as we go along. We have to be very, very careful. Hare Krishna. Ah, boy. A full brigade of London firemen enter the hall a few minutes later, pretty much ending the kirtan. Just another Saturday night rave at the Roundhouse. The Beatles' White Album came out in late November and instantly becomes #1 selling album in the world, maintaining and deepening the Fab Four's grip on the global consciousness. We listen to revolution over and over again. Like I said, revolution is on everyone's mind. But Prabhupada was giving us a spiritual revolution. There was all kinds of protests in colleges everywhere, all over the planet. The young people were protesting. And there was the album, Revolution. So we hear George saying, while my guitar gently weeps, and little piggies, he's cutting commentary on straight society, his cutting commentary on straight society. Everywhere there's lots of piggies living piggy lives. You can see them out for dinner with their little piggy wives, clutching forks and knives to eat their bacon. This is back in August 1967 when George Harrison had toured Haight Ashbury. He apparently met members of the Hells Angels and offhandedly said to them, "Hey, if you're ever in London, drop by and say hello." Maybe never thinking that they'd take him up on it. Well, I guess they did, because early December, George dictated a memo to his staff. From George Harrison to everybody at Apple, 4th December 1968. Hell's Angels will be in London within the next week on the way to straighten out Czechoslovakia. There will be 12 in number, complete with black leather jackets and motorcycles. They will undoubtedly arrive at Apple, and I've heard they may try to make full use of Apple facilities. They may look as though they're going to do you in, but you are very but are very straight and do good things. So don't fear them or uptight them. Try to assist them without neglecting your Apple business and without letting them take control of Seville Row. On December 10th, I got a call at Betterton Street. Hey, it's me, Rock Scully. How's it going, Sambo? Listen, I'm out here at Heathrow with Danny and some guys from the Haight. We don't have a place to stay. Can you put us up? Sure, man. How many of there are you? 8. Casey's here, Peter Coyote, some of the angels. You got enough room? Hey, we can manage if you don't mind crashing on the floor. How are you getting in town? Can you pick us up? I've got a small pickup. Yeah, I think you can all squeeze in it unless you've got a lot of luggage. Now, we're traveling light, just our saddlebags, a few backpacks. It'll take me an hour or so to get out there. Cool, we'll wait for you out in front of the terminal. Our friends from San Francisco here in London. London, the gang is really excited. Hell's Angels. I mean, these are the tough motorcycle guys. Scary, scary, scary. I don't even know what the equivalent would be right now. They're kind of like modern day Vikings or gladiators, like, "Rah." They like to fight. Well, just think of it, Hell's Angels. It kind of says it. There's something good about them, but they're enforcers of a sort. London, the gang is really excited. I said, look, we've got all these people coming. We need lots of space. Maybe tomorrow we can borrow some blankets from the arts lab. What do you think? Everyone goes into high gear to get things ready for our illustrious guests. They've got some Grateful Dead band members that are in that group of 8. They've been traveling all night and are a little hungover, had some hassles with customs. They're a little surly when they see me drive up in a midget red pickup truck. It's a 1948 pickup truck. It's quite a sight. It's quite cute. And he's got some kind of a little he's made some kind of a festoon top because it's a flatbed, so you can get kind of cold and windblown in the back. So he's created this very cheerful, like, tent covering in the back. I guess they thought the whole world would welcome them with open arms, these intrepid pioneers of the psychedelic age. Rock Scully is here with Dan Rifkin, co-manager of the Grateful Dead, Ken Kizzy, Peter Coyote, Tumbleweed, Frisco Pete, and with the Hells Angels, and a couple of hippie chicks. Sue Swanson and Connie Rock, with conjunctivitis in his eyes, are swollen and red. Rock Scully, yeah, we expected George to just open up his castle and put us all up. You'd think he would have had 8 rooms apiece for us, or at least a limo. They had expectations. 7 bodies pile into the back with their gear. I looked in the rearview mirror at the scowling faces of the Californians not dressed for London's December cold, tired, but maybe happy to be here. Rock jumps in front and tells me on the way into town, Tumbleweed and Frisco Pete brought their Harleys on the plane. Motorcycles, huge motorcycles on the plane. Phew, who does this? They wouldn't let you nowadays, that's for sure. But customs won't release them until someone pays the air freight bill. Geez, Rock, you didn't. I love the way Shamasundar writes. No, no, it's okay. We're going to call Apple. They'll straighten it out. Richard DiLello, who worked for Apple at the time, writes about this incident in his book, The Longest Cocktail Party. Press office, right? Air freight arrivals, Heathrow Airport. Here, sir, we have 2 Harley-Davidson motorcycles which are ready for collection. However, the shipping costs must be paid before we can release them. Just a minute, please. Who are they for? Well, it says here is Hell's Angels, care of Apple, 3 Seville Road. Are they a group of yours? Not exactly, but how much are the shipping costs? Pounds 250. We'll hold on to them until someone comes to claim them. And please, I beg you, make sure nothing happens to them. No scratches, please. Gerda greets these wild and woolly bunch at the front door to Betterton Street and politely asks Briscoe Pete to take off his boots before he goes up the stairs. Pete complies, but we almost wish he hadn't. The smell of his day old socks almost gag us. and and much incense is lit, trying to cover up the smell of his smelly feet. The girls feed everyone with boundless prasad. Tumbleweed asks, "Where are the forks?" And Malati tells that he had better wash some of the grease off his fingers because he has to eat with his hands. Frisco Pete can't believe these taters. Peter Coyote uses our phone to call a friend in London and then splits. Bakunda and Danny catch up on the Ashbury gossip, and Gurda stays up most of the night talking philosophy with Ken Kesey. When I was in high school, Ken Kesey came to our high school to talk. He gave like a lecture, and it was kind of trying to encourage kids, high schoolers, to not get into drugs. And, because he had gone the whole route with drugs and everything. And I remember him saying, he never had, when he was involved in drugs, he had no personal hygiene. And he used to brush his teeth with a chocolate bar. It's like, that means he'd lost his teeth too. So he was trying to talk sense into high schoolers to live a straight life without drugs because you might end up like him. So he was trying to do something good. Let's see, where are we? In his book, By His Example, Gurudas describes their conversation. Then Kisi gave the Swami a great compliment. Your guru is the heaviest. Translated, that means the deepest, most natural, determined, uncompromising, real, not afraid to ask for what he thinks, brightest star in the honorific galaxy of living saints in the universe. I yak with Ra for hours about old times. I'm not sure how much sleep anyone got that night, people clomping up and down the stairs to get to the toilet or outside for a cigarette. They didn't really, they were living in 4 floors and there really weren't facility. Uh, Shamasundar built like a shower stall down at the bottom, and Malati was living in a cardboard box with Saraswati. It was very rough. They were really roughing it. So they were making them go outside to smoke cigarettes. So by they're clumping up and down the stairs to get to the toilet or outside for a cigarette. But by morning, the San Francisco gang was more than ready to leave. I take Tumbleweed and Pete out to Heathrow to pick up their Harleys, which have been released. They will be busy the next few days organizing a British branch of the Hells Angels. Rock Scully. Well, they were looking to straighten them out because they were a bunch of guys that had kind of whitewashed the backs of their jackets saying Hell's Angels and calling themselves Hell's Angels. And so he wanted to check that out and see if there was something there that was righteous enough to actually be a chapter. Wanted to vet them to see whether they were worthy of being Hell's Angels. These days, 3 days later, I got another call from Rock. He says they're all going to a pre-Christmas party at Apple that afternoon, hoping to meet the Beatles. I say, do you mind if I tag along? He says, no, come on. I'll see you down there. As I head out the door from Betterton Street, I'm scared out of my mind. On my way to meet the most popular people in the world, it terrifies. Butterflies in my stomach, thinking, no, 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 it's okay. Krishna will guide you. It's a short walk, maybe 20 minutes to Seville Road, cross Piccadilly, up Regent Street. Good. The rain stopped. Rock said 4 o'clock, 4:30, running a little late, but these guys will be there all afternoon. I'm giving class. I'll talk later. Sorry. I should have turned it off. I'm going to do that right now. There we go. Hare Krishna. Um, Rock said 4 o'clock, 4:30, running a little late, but these guys will be there all afternoon. Is my T-Lock okay? Hills Angels, Ken Kesey, Grateful Dead guys. Geez, the Beatles won't even see me. Because these guys take up a lot of psychic space. They're bigger than life. You know, Shamasundar, well, he's tall and stately. But keep in mind, in the earlier, where we found out they shaved their heads, oiled up their heads, and they learned how to put on dhotis. They had yellow dhotis, so they were really interested in standing out. So he shows up in his dhoti. That means he's looking very different with big T-lock on, shave head, and wearing a dress, a dhoti, for a British person. Now they've seen people in saris, but not the men don't wear the dhotis, so they're very different in that way. And if they're even there, stop. Let's go. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hurry, hurry. Make the light slap, slap. It's like you almost feel like the way he writes, you're just right along with them. He's taking you along, and you feel his excitement. Slap, slap with his flip flops. Should have worn proper shoes, not flip flops. Rain, crap all over my dhoti. Oh boy, he wanted to look spiffy, and now he's a little bit messed up. There it is, number 3, Seville Road. A dozen girls, some with cameras, are hanging around the short staircase up to Apple Corp. One girl giggles and says, Hare Krishna. A black suit, big shouldered Bobby says, Stop, as I reach for the door. But, sir, my friends are in there. You know, the group from California, the motorcycle guys. I have an appointment, struggling not to laugh at this bald headed nutcase yag. That's himself in a yellow bed sheet. The Bobby says, Run along now, laddie. The guy's got a nice enough smile. I guess he's just doing his job. Squeals behind me announce the silent arrival of a white Rolls Royce, and Big Shoulders hops down the stairs to open the rear door. Yoko Ono, knowing and looking cool in shades, steps out, sees me, smiles, and says softly, You must be one of George's friends. Come in. He's in. Just what he's been working on doing now for some time. He is in the door. Good job. Flash bulbs pop behind us. Upstairs, we enter a big lounge with armchairs, sofas, small tables, and lamps, a Christmas tree winking in one corner. And if they're even there, stop, let's go. Oh, wait. Most people in the room were stunned, and some come over to gawk silently while we shoot the breeze. Others continue to mill around, drinks in hand, trying to look cool rather than nervous. I feel marvelously fluent, chosen, and wonderfully happy. Now, in those days, everybody smoked cigarettes. It was like this so horrible. For those of us who didn't, it was dreadful to be around because everybody was holding their cigarettes and walking around with cigarettes, and was such it was really hard to breathe in those days. Hare Krishna. So motioning around the room, he says, Do you know these people? Yeah, I know some of these guys, old friends from San Francisco I used to hang out with and drop acid. When I met the Swami now, we've got a temple here in Haight Ashbury, maybe 100 devotees, and most are ex-freaks like me. George, digging the story, tells me about his trip. Wait a second, I missed something somewhere. Oh. So somehow George has made a beeline to him. and he immediately starts asking Shamasundar a lot of questions. And Shamasundar is just ecstatic. He feels chosen. He just ignores everybody else and just he's saying, "Where have you been? I've been waiting to see you guys." And that's why Yoko Ono said, "Oh, you're one of George's friends," because he had been previously. He talks about in I think Guru Das's. It's like when they finally met him, he was saying that he listened to Prabhupada's album all like for days straight. He just kept listening to Prabhupada's album, the Happening album, over and over and over again. He had it completely memorized. So he was ripe, very, very ripe. So he said, when I met the Swami now, I've got a temple here in Haight Ashbury. Oh, when I met the Swami now, we've got a temple here in Haight Ashbury, maybe 100 devotees, and most are ex-freaks like me. George, digging the story, tells me about his trip to the Haight, laughing. Tells me some things he'd learned from Ravi and Yogananda and Maharishi, telling how he often listens to the Happening album and likes the devotees. Vedanta Swami singing Hare Krishna, describing an incident that happened to him a year before when a light plane was when a light plane he was on suddenly lost altitude and started to crash. He shouted Hare Krishna at the top of his lungs until the plane leveled out just before hitting the ground. So has experienced a genuine miracle, telling him how the six of us devotees, as Swami disciples, most of us friends since childhood, have come to London to spread the word about Krishna, that we live together in a warehouse in Covent Garden, and how we've given up intoxicants of all kinds, even tea, and eat no meat, fish, or eggs. We don't gamble and have given up sex. He winces. The idea of giving up sex is like ugh, hard. That's the hard one, except for getting children. I have a child, but we get Krishna in return, feeling the great benefit of this surrender, the long lasting pleasure that's better than any drug. I tell him I'm a carpenter doing odd jobs to get along. Another devotee is a photographer, and one who tunes pianos, Mukunda, he tunes pianos. He's a musician. But what I don't get is why just Krishna? George asks. I mean, you've got Shiva, Ganesh, Brahma. They're all the same, aren't they? Why don't you chant Hare Shiva or something? Yeah, well, you've got to read Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, and Krishna speaking it, all right? To his friend Arjuna, Krishna is Bhagwan. Krishna stu Bhagawan Swayam. He is the big guy. He uses I am and come to me, and this is mine. He is the person, but the supreme person. He is Bhagawan. Bhagawan means someone who has six opulences in full. I mean, you're George Harrison, you're famous, rich, you're beautiful, but God has all these opulences in full. I'm here, George, you're famous, you're rich, and you're beautiful, but God has all these opulences completely. And he starts counting them off on his fingers. He has wealth, all fame, all knowledge, all power. He's more beautiful than anyone. And at the same time, he's all renounced. He doesn't give a hoot about any of it. Such a person who has everything and is therefore very attractive to us, he attracts us like no other. You know, it's actually Mukunda Maharaj spent some time with us in Hawaii, and he was telling us how Shamasundar used to write some of their songs, like no other. This is what some of the lyrics from some of the songs that the Beatles sing. And they're songs, but they were really love songs to Krishna. But everyone in the world thought they were love songs to some beloved, but it was love songs to Krishna. He attracts us like no other. That's Krishna. This name means the all attractive Supreme Person. So we like to go to this top guy, Krishna, and call on him, try to get something going with him. Bombshell time. Krishna's soaking it, George is soaking it all in, seems frozen for a time, little ticks and flutters of his eyes as the pieces whir and are settling in and locking into place. I'm impressed. He's so quick to understand things, goes quickly to the core. I get it, he says. I'm on a roll talking about my spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami, how he comes down in all the ages in an old line of disciples, disciplic succession, teaching what his master taught him, and so on, back through time. That's what we're learning. It's nothing new or made up. But the real scoop about Krishna, Sanatan Dharma, ancient science of God realization as it is, shaking off the little thoughts that, wow, this guy, my big hero, so handsome and magnetic, is actually spellbound and listening to me. He's talking to the most famous guy, like practically at that time on the earth planet. Remember in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna expands himself and shows Arjuna all the universes. He moves like that cover on the Jimi Hendrix album. In those days, Jimi Hendrix did the universal form and he put his face on it. And shortly after that, he died. We all wondered, because it seemed like a big offense to do something like that, to make the Virata Roop and then put his face in the middle of it. So, Hare Krishna, we have to be very careful, very careful. Well, all these infinite universes are just expansions of Krishna's energy, his effulgence called Brahmajyoti. I know some of these great masters prefer to connect with this Brahmajyoti, this cosmic consciousness, they call it, become one with God or merge with the void. But that's all right. But one's path to God consciousness. But it's called the impersonal approach, and it's very difficult to attain in this modern age of chaos. Kali Yuga. Right away, because we're so fallen nowadays, it's recommended that we take the shortcut and go right to Krishna by chanting his name. It's called the personal approach, personal or impersonal. There are two approaches to God. It's just easier to go personal, just like now when I do prefer meeting you here, talking to you, sharing some words, some emotions, some laughs, sitting in my pad, stoned on on the muse or on your music. Now, your music's great too, but I'd rather be here now yakking with you. He uses the word yakking. It's like talk, 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 talk. He's got a vernacular that's very casual. He's very affable, very very lovable. Shamasundar. Yeah, Shamasundar. I feel like I've always known you somehow. Maybe from a life before, like maybe we were brothers or something. If you're free, we'll talk again Sunday at my place. I met his eyes and see this ancient flame. He smiles with those huge teeth. There's nothing more to say. With quick, efficient movements, he scrawls a map to his place on a napkin, flicks his beautiful hair as he looks around, leaps up, waves farewell to everyone, and leaves. The whole room sparkles. His space smells like incense, French tobacco, and good soap. Derek Taylor describes this day, December 13th, 1968, in his Black Friday in his book As Time Goes By. I helped to spread the word that Apple was willing to help and thought maybe it was no use trying to blame anyone else for Black Friday Day at Apple, where the Hells Angels, the managers of the Grateful Dead, and a homeless family of 7 from California, the Beach Boys, Hare Krishna, 2 transcendental meditators from Rishikesh, Mary Hopkins, George Harrison, John Lennon, Yoko Ono, a German television producer, Tambi Mutu, all arrived at once, needing cups of tea and conversation. It's all over. Black Friday, it's over, and I'm still alive. And recall a few details, few indeed. Rock Scully said Apple didn't put much food out, so there was a lot of drinking, and everyone was really hungry, and people were getting pissed off, hours of waiting, and finally, what happened? The angels had bought one of those stupid English bikers, and they were getting pushy and loud and ended up knocking somebody down those steep stairs. And Ringo was sitting there, and this faux English biker comes rolling down the stairs, and Ringo goes, "Whoa, what's going on here?" It got out of hand. When I returned to Betterton Street, I was surprisingly calm, relieved that the wait was over. The others pumped me for information, and I shared with them everything that had happened that afternoon, from the cop at the front door to the ruckus on the stairs leaving Apple. George is such a nice guy, I told them over and over. I'm not kidding. He was like talking to my brother. He's a Krishna devotee, one of us. You're going to love him. I was so thankful that I'd been chosen for this very special service, but my inner glee was tempered by the feeling that this was, after all, just Krishna's plan unfolding. No big deal. Meeting George felt so normal. Malati says, I remember Shamasundar coming up the stairs at Betterton Street saying he had met George and he's a really nice guy. He said it so matter-of-factly. Usually I got really excited by these things. He rubbed his hands together and squealed like a coyote, but he was so low-key, casual. On Sunday, December 15th, I make a solo trip out to Kin Fon's George psychedelic ranch style house near Esher in Surrey, pulling up in my red pickup and a cloud of oil smoke. George introduces me to Patty. I get the feeling he wants to run all this new Krishna stuff by her too, see what she thinks. What a stunner. She is so soft and quiet, refined. We small talk for a while and then get right into it. He fires one question after another. He's so hungry for philosophy, the purpose of life. He said, that's an easy one. Animals, we have four purposes in their life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending themselves. As humans, we share these four purposes, propensities, as Swami calls them, with animals. Sure, we have better eating arrangements. We build palaces for sleeping. Ah, all these bits and pieces running around in my head, pieces of the puzzle seem to fit into a big picture the way you are saying. Hare Krishna. Okay. But it's just, but it's not just me. I'm just a messenger. I don't really know very much, but I do know the guy who knows everything. Now he's glorifying Prabhupada. He's glorifying Prabhupada. I know the guy who knows. So I'm just new here, but I'm telling you everything I know. He's also the messenger delivering what is called absolute knowledge, but it's so logical. So it's also absolute science. Everything I say about it can be proved. There's no loose ends. Go ahead, ask me anything. He's so confident. Ask me anything. Okay, so what do I what do I find when I find out who I am, where I came from, and where I'm going? Krishna or Jehovah or Allah or the Great Spirit, whatever you want to call him, is God, who created us an infinite number of tiny individual spirit souls who inhabit this creation in an infinite number of individual bodies. Krishna is a person, just like sparks are very small quantities of the big fire from which they came. We share Krishna's personal attributes. We sense with five senses. We think, we laugh, we work, we love. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and we are his enjoyed. If we forget this relationship and instead want to enjoy something on our own, we have free will just like Krishna. He is so kind that he creates this material world for us, and he gives us the body of a pig if we want to eat more, or a rabbit if we want to have more sex, like that. So when I wake up and I realize that I'm someone to be enjoyed by Krishna, that I have an original, individual, loving relationship with his servant, friend, parent, and even his lover, then I know where I'm going. I'm going to use this little lifetime to nourish my relationship, revive my love of God, feel God love me in return, and go back to Godhead, back to Godhead. This is called self-realization. George picks up on this. Oh, like Vivekananda says, each soul is divine. The soul is to manifest that divinity. Patty says, you do it by chanting. Others do it by meditation or something different, different kinds of yoga. Yeah, right. Yoga means union in Sanskrit. We get the English yoke from yoga. Yoga means practice, some discipline to unite yourself with God. Meditation, Raj Yoga, Hatha Yoga, so many yogas. They're all very practical, all very difficult to perform in this day and age. So we practice Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of loving devotional service. Bhakti means unalloyed love. We fan the flames of love and of God by chanting his names all the time, reading about him. Such an easy process. But it's 7 o'clock, so to be continued. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Bo, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I love his casual way of writing. He kind of pulls you right into the conversation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.